to episode 21 of the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. My guests today are Kristin Nicholas and Gale Zucker. Kristin Nicholas is a knitwear and stitchery designer. She learned to sew when she was 9 years old. Soon after, she added crocheting and embroidery to her skills. She made all her clothes growing up in a family of 5 girls in Dover, New Jersey. She went to college and grad school for clothing and textile design, and one summer taught herself to knit. That same year, she met her husband Mark at Oregon State University while on a college exchange program. After college, Kristin worked for a year and a half in the Empire State Building as a merchandiser for a shirt company. She found her dream job as the creative director of a small yarn company in Lowell, Massachusetts, shortly before she and Mark were married. For 16 years, she did whatever needed to be done at the yarn company: advertising, marketing, working with sales reps, designing knitwear, writing copy, and newsletters. She now lives in Western Massachusetts with her husband and 15-year-old daughter, Julia, on a working sheep farm in a colorful farmhouse built in 1751. Mark and Kristin bought their first 4 sheep in 1980 and have raised sheep for over 30 years. They market their Leiden Glen lamb meat at local farmers markets. They have 3 border collies, 400 sheep, chickens, cats, a Great Pyrenees guard dog, a guard donkey, and a guard llama. Kristin has workshops on Creative Bug and Craftsy and is the author of 8 books. Kristin Nicholas, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, Abby.
So glad you're here. Gale Zucker is a location photographer specializing in shooting for yarn companies, designers, and craft books. She photographs real people in real places in a storytelling style and has photographed for everyone from TV Guide, the New York Times, the Smithsonian, Consumer Reports, Fortune 500 companies, and prestigious universities. Gale is the co-author and photographer of 2 books, Craft Activism and Sheer Spirit, and she's currently working on several new books, including one about fashion at the Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool Festival. A lifelong knitter and crafter, Gale lives in Shoreline, Connecticut with her family. She can be found swimming, dog wrangling, making stuff, or at the beach knitting when she doesn't have a camera in her hand. Gale Zucker, welcome.
Oh, glad to be here. Hi.
I'm so glad to have both of you on the show, and it's just such an honor for me. So thank you so much. Kristin, I think we're going to start with you, and tell me a little bit about how your experience kind of working as a jack of all trades for Classic Elite Yarns helped you as you shifted to starting your own yarn-based business.
Well, when I started there, it was really teeny, and the funny story is, my first TNNA show, I went with my boss, Pat Chu, and her daughter was getting married. We set up the trade show booth, and she left me. She left me there to do the show. She introduced me to 2 sales reps. And then I had never done a trade show before. So everything I did was kind of trial by fire. And I quickly figured out that as long as I could figure out what I wanted to do and how to do it, she would let me do anything I wanted. So I guess that first experience was great because nothing really is impossible. So when I moved on to freelance, you just have to make up the ideas and go with it. And sometimes I lose a little bit of confidence in myself, but then I think, oh, I can do this. It's just that I don't have people here to help me. I just have to keep going on my own. So that is really my biggest struggle about being unemployed. There's nobody to bounce ideas off of. And that's actually how I found you, Abby, because I like to listen to your show because you've got all these creative people on that are they're doing the same thing as me, but maybe in a few different disciplines or whatever, and that just keeps me inspired. So thank you for doing for what you do.
Oh, absolutely. And I can totally relate to what you're saying as far as being alone, but I love what you said about you just make up the ideas and then do them. Because that truly is what it's about, right? It's like, oh, well, what if I did that? That would be kind of cool. And then you just sort of have to figure out how to make it happen and pull in the resources you need to sort of make it happen all on your own,
Yeah, and I think the other thing is you really can't be afraid of failure because an idea bombs. As long as you haven't dumped too much money into it, you just move on and start the next idea.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's a blessing to always have a ton of ideas. So I get the feeling you're that kind of person. So I know that I've seen some photos of your home. I know you love bright colors and you love working in bright colors. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about color with you. So what is it about sort of living with color and working with color that you love?
Oh, it just makes me happy. When I have a lot of color around, I think it makes me feel really warm. It's interesting. It's stimulating. And, it's just, you can keep trying things, keep looking at how other people use color, finding color in nature. And it just never gets old. I might be knitting and a few different balls of yarn just sort of fall together and think, oh my God, I never would put that combination together, but let's try it and see what happens. So, in my house, it's bright, but there's rooms that are, not so bright. Like my studio is white walls because I've got so much other stuff going on all around me. And my kitchen is actually a very light, gray color. And, that's because I've got all this pottery and different stuff around me. So you just have to keep playing with it. And when I watch people walk into my house, they just sort of they just keep looking around. And for me, everything is just here. It's things I've lived with over the years and put together in a certain way. But then my daughter, sometimes she'll go to somebody else's house and I think she just looks because they're so plain, she can't figure out what's wrong.
She's used to living with all your collections.
Yeah, the chaotic color kind of thing.
So how did you and your husband decide to become sheep farmers? I watched your creative bug video, which was totally entrancing. And my goodness, you have a lot of sheep. So how did this happen?
Well, my husband grew up on a dairy farm. And so he was always around animals, and he went to school for animal science, but he did not want to milk cows for his whole life. He really likes agriculture, working with animals and working with the land. And so when we met out in Oregon, and he found this sheep production class, and he thought, oh, if I can still have sheep, but I can have another off-farm job so that, I can make a living, because he knew how hard it is to make a living farming, and it just keeps getting harder and harder. So that's how we got into sheep. And, we've always had them. We got 4 sheep before we were married. My mother said, oh, some people get an engagement ring. Kristin got 4 sheep. So that's how we got into it. And, that's the life cycle of our house is basically the sheep life cycle, this morning, it's raining, and we were out sorting sheep, moving them around. I was like, I got to get back to talk to Abby.
So you raise the sheep for meat, but you are also a knitter and do a lot of work with yarn. But so do you also shear them and use their wool, or is that not what you do?
Well, okay. I learned to spin when I was in college. Also, about the same time I was learning to knit, and it's just very, very hard to make money off the wool. It's sheep they're dual purpose animals, and people that make more money off their animals are doing it with meat. They're not doing it with the wool. I don't have the patience to go to all these sheep fairs and set up a booth and market and talk to people. I like to do the designing, so that's why I've teamed up with yarn companies so that I can get my product out there farther than if I were just doing everything myself. And the bottom line is, I knew how much work went into a yarn company, and I also know that, say I wanted to get our yarn spun, well, I have to do the work of 15 people just to produce a small amount of yarn. But what we do is we shear our sheep. That was a long answer, sorry.
No, but I think that's really interesting to hear about the economics of producing wool versus the economics of producing meat. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, and like I was at the farmer's market yesterday. I sell ground lamb, sausage. I've had to produce all these recipes because people don't know what to do with it. So I kind of took my marketing background and now I'm marketing our lamb meat. And but we do shear our sheep, just so everybody knows. And I actually have been selling it to another farm who's been buying different wool from New England, and then they get it spun and made into blankets, and they have a little bit higher end farmers market business than we have. So, it's just easier. We have so much wool, like these bags that weigh 250 pounds and there's like 10 of them or something like that, so it's just easier to get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally see why that would be. Yeah. It sounds really labor intensive.
It is.
Yeah. What an interesting process though. So, and you also, I just wanted to talk about one other thing, which is that you host knitting retreats on your farm, and I'm imagining that kind of gives people a chance to see what all of this is like firsthand. So what happens during the retreats?
Yeah. So they are, they're actually this year I'm doing some embroidery retreats, crewel embroidery, one knitting retreat. I'm doing a surface design, printing retreat, and there's one more. I'm also trying to do a mother and child embroidery retreat. So, because I have all these different interests. Oh, the other thing is a painting on a lampshade class, which I've got these beautiful hand-painted lampshades, and we're going to paint a lampshade, and they'll be able to take it home. So, basically, it's sort of like a introduction to small farming agriculture, and that doesn't take up very much of the course. And then I teach about color. It depends on which subject I'm teaching, and then it's hands-on, make it, and leave with something. Depending on what the subject is, they will leave with something done, or they'll have the skills to finish it at home.
That's a lot of fun. That's really cool. And so when is the next one happening, just so people...
They start, I think it's July 9th is the first one, and they're 5 weeks this summer. It's hard, though, I must say, there are so many retreats out there now.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. I feel like there's so much noise in that arena. And, but I give people a really cool experience, because where can you be where there's sheep baying outside, roosters and chickens, and, and then you're learning art on the inside. And, you basically leave with an experience and a project and something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that sounds great. And the mother-daughter idea is a really neat one, too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
But I'll tell you, Abby, I'm branching out into other areas, and I'm not known in the other areas. So, it's a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. And it's so hard to get known, getting known. Yeah. That's always the biggest challenge, I feel like.
Right. And I have a new book. Right now I've been working on 3 different books. But I have a book, Colorful Stitchery, coming out in September. And then I have a book called Crafting a Colorful Home, which comes out in January 2015. And then I have a kids embroidery book coming out sometime in 2015. So I've been working on all these books. They're pretty much all done. But I think if I waited for the classes for next year, I would have had more followers. I'm sort of up in the gun, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really hard to do all of those things at once, Yeah. And who is your publisher? Are those all with the same publisher?
The first 2, the Colorful Stitchery and Crafting a Colorful Home, are with Roost, which is a division of Shambhala.
Yeah.
And then the third one is with C&T.
Okay. Super. Yeah. And Roost is right here in Massachusetts, which is awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So Gale, we're going to hop over to you. And I wanted to ask you, the term location photographer, what does that mean?
Well, it means that I don't work, you sort of can look at photographers, and there's lots of different ways to divide different kinds of photography, but studio photographers work in a studio or a controlled environment where basically my subjects might be human or they might be still life, and they would come into my space and I would control all aspects of it. But I work on location, which means I go elsewhere and sort of shoot in the real world. And my background's in photojournalism, so my interest has always been in sort of storytelling in the real world.
Okay, so that makes sense. So how did you go from sort of photojournalism in general to kind of telling the stories of crafters and makers, and especially sort of knitwear designers through photography?
Well, I have been a knitter my whole life and a crafter, and I think the way I grew up was not that different from the way Kristin did, in a family of girls and in a lot of artists, and we just were always sewing and knitting and making stuff in general. And when I started working I went to journalism school because I wanted to be a photojournalist, and that's pretty much all I've done. I started freelancing when I was in my 20s and started working for the New York Times shortly after that. So, and I actually was kind of known for being able to do kind of tough and gritty stories like inside women's prisons and overnight in the trauma center at the ER, and sort of weird psychological or risky kind of situations. And knitting was the thing I did to de-stress, but I always thought it was really separate from my photography, which I have to say the world of photojournalism and magazine photography was heavily macho male oriented. It's changed somewhat over the last decade. But so I really especially never mixed knitting with anything related to my photography world. And I did a book in 2000. It came out in 2003 about what happens to kids who age out of foster care. And that was a fabulous book. It was called On Their Own, and it was really, really good. A journalist wrote it, and I did the photography profiling 10 different people. And that led to more work with youth at risk, youth who are already adjudicated, into last-ditch efforts to keep them out of jail forever, youth that were having problems with addiction and crime, etc. And sort of it was, the more intense it got, the more I was using the knitting to escape sort of and de-stress. And I started a knitting blog around that time just for fun because I discovered knitting blogs. That was around 2005. And I guess there was a project I was working on that was a sort of, if you've ever saw the movie the TV show The Wire,
yeah.
And it was a project that was dealing with sort of that same population. It was kids in Baltimore in the summer who were in a lot of trouble. And it was so intense that I just couldn't really leave it. And around that time, I couldn't leave it mentally. And around that time, a book packager I was working with on another social issue project said, "Oh, Gale, if you ever want to do a book, give me an idea." And I just kind of blurted out, "You know what I really want to do? I want to do a book about where yarn comes from. I think people want to know where there's enough people who are interested in the provenance of the yarn and what is it like? What really goes into the yarn? What happens on a sheep farm? What do alpaca look like? How do you live a life with raising animals on a farm?" And have knitting patterns in it. And the person I was pitching this to was like dead silence, and she thought I was joking. And I was like, she goes, "Oh, you don't know anything about that. You don't knit." And I said, "Yeah, I do actually, and I think this could go. So, let's just see." And she called me back a couple weeks later and said, "I talked to some publishers, and I think you have a good book idea. Let's put a proposal together." So that was. I did share the book. I mean, it sounds like instantly, poof, it became Share Spirit, but it took about a year and a half. And the book was put together, proposed and got a contract from Random House with the writer Joan Tapper. And we did the book Share Spirit. And so that was my initial. That was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, that is so totally interesting. And I can really relate to a lot of what you said, because I went to Johns Hopkins, and in the summer I worked with Baltimore City public school kids. I was the director of a program called Teach Baltimore, and working with them to help prepare them for the standardized tests that they have in Baltimore City. These are kids who are really far behind and struggling with all different kinds of different issues. And then I did Teach for America and worked in the Mississippi Delta with really impoverished community there for 2 years. So, and I can understand completely the idea of coming home and wanting to make something to de-stress. And actually, when I think back to my time living in Itta, Mississippi, I made myself this giant doll while I was there that everyone was making fun of me that it was my friend, but I made this huge doll that would sit next to me on the couch. And really, like, if I think back to it, that was sort of the kernel of what I do now in a lot of ways. So I can really relate to that concept of wanting to sort of de-stress by making something with your hands. And so that's so interesting. So that launched your totally sort of a new path, a new avenue for your photography work. Well,
that was the first time. I think it brought the two together. And I still photograph for non-knitwear, non-yarn company and non-craft related clients. But I think that started to connect the two things. And then as, you know, that book came out in 2008. And I think then after that, I shot the second Mason-Dixon knitting book because I connected with Ann Shane and Kay Gardner through the knitting world. And, and one thing leads to another. So at this point, I think about 50% of my work is knitwear, yarn, and craft related. And the other half is still a variety of different clients from, including nonprofits and magazines and universities. So, and I really do like the mix.
Yeah, I bet.
And I think when you freelance, it's kind of like people say you work for yourself, but the truth is you really work for everybody. So, I hardly ever say no to anything.
Yeah. That's so great. What a great mix of jobs. And you do some teaching of photography too.
I do. When that really started, I used to a long time ago before I had kids and I had a little more time on my hands, I taught photography at a community arts center in New Haven, not far from where I live. And then I stopped teaching. And in 2009, after Sheer Spirit came out, a lot of knitters would email me and say, "Oh, I wish my pictures look good. How do you make, how come your yarn looks good?" And I taught a workshop. I was invited to teach a workshop, and it was really, really, really fun because here I got to talk about the two things I adore talking about,
right?
Photography and knitting and crafts. So that's sort of taken on a life of its own. So yeah, I do still teach the photo for knitters and photo for handcrafters workshops.
Gosh, I'd love to take one of those. I've learned to use my camera to a degree, but there's always so much more to learn, and so I hope I get a chance to take one of your workshops. That sounds perfect for me.
Well, Gale's a really good teacher.
Oh, I bet. I can tell. Totally. All right, so I've asked both of you to prepare lists of things that you're loving right now and that you would recommend, and I've prepared one too. So we're going to dive into those, and Gale, we're going to start with you, and you wanted to talk about Blog Stomp, and I just watched their little video earlier this morning. It seems pretty cool. So tell us how this works.
Okay. Blog Stomp is a software. I think it's only, you can use it on, I don't think it's a mobile app, but you can use it on an iPad. Well, it works on an iPad or, laptop or desktop. I'm not sure you can use it on a phone, but it is a program that will take a group of your photos and quickly put them into a grid, a very pleasing grid. And you can, the kind of thing that if you try to do this in another program, will take up a huge amount of your time. And so what I like about it is you can set the parameters or how wide it's going to be. So if you want to be putting it into, let's say, your website, you need 1,000 pixels wide, you can set it so the grid will always be 1,000 pixels wide. And as many images as you put in, it will grid. And then you can shift around the shapes and where the images land in the shape. If you could see me, I'm talking with my hands and arranging the shapes in front of my desk. And, there's two things that's fabulous about it. One is that it solves the problem of how to show a bunch of pictures really fast in a really pleasing way without sucking up 3 hours of your life. And the other thing that's really great is once it puts them into that grid and you upload it online, you can't pull the individual pictures out. Somebody else cannot pull the individual pictures out. So for people who are worried about having images pulled apart out of context and reposted somewhere, that can't happen. So I learned about it from, I taught at a conference of wedding photographers, and it's a really popular software for wedding photographers, but I've been adapting using it also.
That's really cool. And it has some neat features that, like I use PicMonkey for some similar, for some similar ideas, but it's got like batch editing of photos, which I really like. So you can upload 12 at once and then resize them all at once. And that's really convenient.
Yes.
And then it also looked as though you could really easily add watermarks.
Yes. You can add watermarks. I think you can add, you can upload like a little, if you have a certain line of text you like to put on everything. I think there's a lot of, and you can put your watermark in the frame of it so you don't have to have a watermark in the image area, which I really hate. Having to see that.
That's great. That's great.
Is it, Gale, is it free?
No, it is not free.
About how much?
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know, because when I was teaching at this conference, one of the other teachers taught a workshop and got us a discounted group rate for it.
Okay.
It's under $100.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I think it's between 50 and 100, but I have to say I think it's well worth it. It's a really, I don't think everything needs to be free is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no. I was just curious, but I could spend hours doing that in Photoshop, and that's why I don't do it.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And I do sometimes spend hours doing that in Photoshop, and then you kind of wonder like where half your day went. So
yeah, that's a good quick solution. And you're right, not everything needs to be free for sure.
Exactly.
And that's something I've been learning more and more recently. So
well, it's one of those, I always think it's like, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Really, like there's the trade-offs. And, because of being expected to be paid for my creativity, I like to try to put a balance into also paying others for theirs.
Yeah, that's totally true. All right. Well, thank you for that one, Blog Stomp. Kristin, we're going to pop over to you, and you wanted to talk about something that I just thought was so beautiful, these Indian tapestry bedspreads. So tell us about those. Yeah.
Okay. So I read years ago, I think it was like House Beautiful or something. And Bunny Williams, who's like a big time decorator, said, just throw an Indian block print on top of it and it'll make everything look fantastic. And she's so right. And then I went to a friend's house up in Maine, and I walked into her kitchen, and there was an Indian block print thrown over her sofa, which was really in bad shape, and it looked fantastic. So I've been collecting these things, for years. I have like a whole, it's an embarrassing amount of fabric. And you can also sometimes get them at yard sales. And they're great because they wash great. They're all cotton. They fade a little bit, which I like because it makes them look a little more aged. And you can throw them over your sofa. You can take them on a picnic. You can put them on a chair, all kinds of stuff. And I have all these dogs and cats and messy people. So when they get dirty, I just throw them in the washing machine and boom, fixed.
That's great. Yeah. It's like, it's like you can just throw it on and you're automatically looking kind of dressed up and pretty.
Right. And the thing is, it's different than like a white canvas drop cloth, because those just get dirty. These have pattern on them, so they hide the stain.
Right.
Can I just interject that I am actually wearing a shirt that is an Indian block print right now, and it is making me look fantastic, if only you could see it.
That's hilarious.
It is.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'll put a couple of links that you sent me, Kristin, to some of the, favorite ones that you have online, so people can kind of get a sense of what they look like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so I wanted to talk about also a software online. It's called Noisely, and okay, here's what it does. It does two things. It is a background noise generator. So I work from home, and my 2 older kids are 10 and 8, and they're at school. But my little one, 2 days a week, is home with a babysitter in the morning for 3 hours while I work. And that means that I'm here and she's in the next room. There's no door. So if the babysitter's reading her a book, I can hear the book. I can hear her trying to ask for various things and the babysitter misunderstanding her and me kind of freaking out. So it's very distracting and difficult for me to actually focus on what I really need to do in that very short, concentrated period of time. So I have tried putting on music and all kinds of different things, but Noisely has been fantastic. So there are all of these different background noises like water, trees. There's a coffee shop one, so you can pretend you're in a coffee shop. And, you just click it and it makes that noise. And you can do 2 at once if you want water and trees. And, so there's crickets, there's lots of different ones. So that is really nice. And it really does work as far as sort of blocking out background noise. And it would be good if you're traveling. There's lots of good uses for it. And there's an app, so you can have it on your phone if you want. The other thing it does, which I think is sort of a brilliant pairing, is it's a sort of very pared down text editor. So it's totally distraction free. It's very plain. And I used it the other day. I'm beginning to write an ebook, and I was just having trouble starting because it just seemed like so big. Like I have this huge outline, and so I just sat and opened Noisely and just started writing in their text editor. And there's something sort of oddly freeing about it. Like, it's not in Microsoft Word, it's not on your blog editor. It's just sort of this other space. And once you've written a bunch, you can download it and, import it into your word processor or whatever. But the other thing in the text editor is you can set it so the color kind of changes, and you get this kind of color therapy going on at the same time. So it kind of fades from yellow to green to blue, and it's just calm. Like, you have noise going on, you have the color, you have this distraction-free space. So I like it. I think there's times when Noisely is sort of a lifesaver. And I've been definitely using the noise part more and more. So that's my recommendation. Especially if you work from home with distraction.
No, that's true. That is like one of the home office things. It's even if you're in there and you say no one can bother me, it is so hard to separate yourself from, the world that's going on a few feet away.
Yeah, it really is. And especially, even if my husband even is home for the day, I find even that to be distracting. Mm-hmm. Like, even if the kids are all at school, but I don't know, it's hard to make yourself look as though you're unavailable.
Right.
Well, seriously, are you ever really unavailable for your children and your husband?
Right, exactly. It's so
they can always get there.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so Gale, we're back up to you, and I wanted to hear about a tripod that you recommended. It's by Benro. I have a Benro tripod as well, but I'm imagining this one's not the same one that I have. So tell me about your fluid head.
Well, actually, it's not a tripod.
Oh.
It's a monopod.
Oh.
So it only has one leg. I actually hate working with tripods, and I have a tripod that is probably the most well-traveled tripod you'll ever meet, and I very, very rarely use it, only if I absolutely have to, because I like to move around a lot while I shoot. But I also don't like hauling around a tripod. But a monopod is really wonderful because there are situations where you really want to steady your camera, and a monopod is just basically, as it sounds, it's just one leg. This one actually has like 3 little tiny legs that flip down from the bottom of the monopod so that it does have additional steadying ability. And if you stand on one of them, it really stabilizes it. And it's wonderful if you want to just really, it folds down to like the size of like a sort of like larger than a folding umbrella, but smaller than a full umbrella. And it's very light, but when you unfold it, it's wonderful for steadying your camera. The other thing is it's a fluid head, which means once you lock your camera onto it, you can make really, really smooth movements up, down, left, and right, which is great for shooting video. Because I'm sure you've all tried shooting handheld video, and there's like that nice handmade video look, and then there's that really like nauseating jerky handmade video look. So this sort of a fluid head on a monopod or a fluid head on a tripod allows you to make lots of video movement without the jerkiness.
Yeah, that's so cool. I kind of wish I had bought this one instead of the one that I bought, but I didn't even know about this before, because I work in a really small space too. And so having the legs of the tripod, believe it or not, out, it's like, always in my way.
Yes.
It drives me crazy. I'm always kicking them over, and it's like nutty. Yeah. This seems great. And I can totally see how having that fluid head would help with decreasing jerkiness. And,
it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's really ridiculously smooth. And it's not a particularly expensive. I bought like the simplest model, and I think it was $130, which for anything related to photography or camera work is a really modest price. The only thing you have to know about a monopod is it doesn't stand on its own. You have to be holding it. So, it doesn't take the place of, if you're trying to take pictures where the camera needs to be sitting in the middle of somewhere and you're somewhere else in the room, it won't work. That's what
it won't stand up on those little legs.
No. It's really like if you just picture like a stick or a staff, and then at the bottom just 3 fold down appendages that sort of steady it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have to sort of stand on them or
Well, I found that when you're using the fluid head, if you stand on them, then you can like lean way forward, if you can picture that, if you want to pan down for something. Yeah. Cool. And it's really good, for a low light situation. I went to TNNA in Indianapolis, and I was doing some photography for a yarn company, and they wanted some pictures of their booth set up before the exhibit hall opened. And what they do in those big exhibit halls to, I think, save on electricity is they keep the lights really low before the doors open when it's only the vendors in there. So it was great because I could get some really nice shots shooting in low light at slow speeds because the monopod gave me enough steadiness.
Right. Holds the camera still. Exactly. So the shutter can be open longer. Am I saying that right? Okay.
Right. Because then you don't get the movement from your hand.
Right.
The movement of your hand pushing down the shutter.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's right. Okay, cool. And just so people who are not in yarn know, TNNA is the National Needle Arts Association.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Show. Yeah. Just so people can.
It's a big trade show in a convention center. Yep.
Right. Okay, cool. All right. So Kristin, we're over to you. You wanted to talk about a couple of podcasts that you're enjoying. And one of them is the Good Life Project.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't even know how I found out about it, but it's this guy, Jonathan Fields, who I think he shoots out of New York. They're video podcasts, but you can also, I think at the bottom, you can listen to them. And he has guests on that are from an enormous array of disciplines. And it's a long interview. It sort of starts with how they started and just, interviews them. And I always get some kind of idea. And I also like that it's so varied. It's not only yarn and color and fabric. There's a guy on, he was a music guy. He's how he started. And for me, I feel like all these different art disciplines are all interrelated. So I always pick up something interesting. So even if it's somebody that's like into fitness, which I am totally, I should be, but I'm not. You learn just listening to him, and he's a good interviewer. And then the other podcast I really like, besides yours, Abby, is Monica Lee's Smart Creative Women, and I think she's also out of Massachusetts, and she interviews a lot of creative women, obviously, like the name. She's had like Amy Butler on, different people that write books, a lot of surface design, a lot of artists. And hers is also a video podcast, but she's got an audio thing too. And so I like both those, especially, when you're when you're working by yourself, you think you're the only one doing it. But I always learn something from these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I've listened to both of them. And I have to say, I really enjoyed on the Good Life Project the interview with Lisa Congdon, who's somebody that I really admire.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, she's
that
great.
this afternoon.
Yeah, go for it. It's a good one. I really, and you get, if you watch the video one, you get to see, inside her studio, which is always a treat. So yeah, I recommend it. And I agree with you, Kristin, that listening to the stories and creative journeys of people in all different sort of artistic fields is interesting. There's always something to learn, even if it's not exactly in your particular discipline.
Right. I just think it broadens who you are as a person, and it makes you think a little bit differently.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about something sort of funny. This is Trunk Club. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay.
I like the name. I like clubs.
Yeah, so it's a club. All right, so a while ago, I signed up for Stitch Fix, which is a club for women, and you fill out a style survey online, and then they send you a personal stylist picks 5 items of clothing for you and sends them to you once a month. And you try them on, and then you return what you don't like and keep what you do want. And this is awesome for me because I am very busy and I want to look nice, but I don't have time to go shopping. So I absolutely love Stitch Fix, and it's so exciting when the box comes. And they do a great job. The clothes are gorgeous, and I've been really happy with it. So my husband is actually a better shopper than me and loves to shop and always looks really nicely dressed. But he always is dressed for work. He buys suits and ties and actually really enjoys dressing himself. He wears a fedora. He's kind of a styling dude. But he doesn't feel as confident shopping for casual clothes, believe it or not. So he's sort of always overdressed. Anyway, so he wanted something similar. So he signed up for this thing called Trunk Club, and it's for men. And you fill out a style survey online, and you're matched with the stylist. They put together a package of clothes for you. So he signed up basically just to get casual clothes. You have 10 days to decide what you want to keep. And he just returned his trunk yesterday, his second one. And he is loving it. It's so cute. He tries on all his clothes, and he's got all these really nice new shirts and new casual pants, and he thinks it's fantastic. And so I don't know. It's fun. It would be a great gift for Father's Day or for a birthday, or just as, something fun for your husband or for your son. If you're, right out of college and need to dress for work or that kind of thing too, it would be good. So that's Trunk Club. It's pretty cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's just amazing. I love things like this, when the internet first, got really established and everyone was, all up in arms that it was going to depersonalize everything. And nobody thought about the interesting kind of developments. Well, like what we're doing right now, something like your podcast that could connect people and connect all these handmade business ideas. But things like the Trunk Club and Stitch Fix it's just so cool that they exist.
Totally. And I love things that sort of use the internet in the best possible way.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like, what could I do with this that would really make best use of the capability?
Right.
And I always really admire things like that. I think that's really cool. Okay, so Gale, we're up to you, and I wanted to talk about some iPhone photo apps that you're recommending, because I would love to play with these. There's one called Snapseed and one called Big Lens, and I'll confess I've not checked out either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you know what? The truth is, if you search for iPhone or smartphone camera apps, it's like mind-boggling how many they are. I mean, it's really ridiculous, and there's a lot that are pretty awful. And it's kind of like busman's holiday for me to play with them. But the iPhone camera is a great camera, and there's a lot you can do with it, but there's also limitations, obviously, with the basic camera. And these apps in particular are really well developed to sort of extend what you can do with the camera, the iPhone camera. Snapseed, I think, is owned by Google now, and it's a really, really good sort of photo editing app that you can do pretty much all kinds of adjustments. And the thing is, a lot of the apps are like one-trick ponies. Like they'll make one adjustment and it's not very subtle and it's really, really fun. Like make your picture look, vintage or turn it sepia or something like that. But I like the apps that allow you to make more subtle adjustments or to adjust something and then dial it way back so that you can actually have more, I guess, not to be snobby, but I guess sophisticated imagery from your phone. So Snapseed can make tons of adjustments, and I like to use it basically to straighten a picture, crop. You can do selective brightening, which is really nice, which means if you take a picture of somebody on a sunny day and the shadow is falling on part of their face, you can brighten up just that side of their face that's dark. So it's pretty cool. And then there's a lot of adjustments. I mean, you can do special effectsy things with it. You can put funky frames on it, and it's got gazillion different adjustments. So usually when I take a picture on my iPhone, unless it's just evidence like a wine bottle I want to remember, I end up putting it into Snapseed and making a few adjustments just to sort of make it a little more snazzy right away. And then Big Lens I really like because it's a app that allows you to add depth of field. So it makes it look like you're shooting, and for those who are not speaking camera jargon, that's the effect where you have one thing in focus and then the rest blurry or out of focus, which is the effect you get from a camera with a large aperture.
Okay, so this sounds like it would be both of them, but maybe Big Lens. Well, actually, both of them in particular would be great for people who are interested in growing like an Instagram following too.
Yes,
because your photos will look better and get more likes and more interaction and that kind of thing.
And you can also, I'm just going to put a little plug in. For the first time ever, I'm actually teaching and making iPhone masterpieces workshop as part of a photo workshop weekend in Portland, Maine at Gathering of Stitches at the end of June, because it is really important to give a look. Like you want to give your iPhone pictures, if you're trying to build a following on Instagram or on your blog or on Facebook, it's great if you can give your images like a look that you use consistently.
Yeah.
So these are the tools to do that with.
That's so good.
The other thing is you can crop to a square, which is Instagram is really viewed as a square, and on Facebook a lot of times, and a lot of the programs, and Ravelry, which is a knitting social network. I never know what word to use. Also, the first time you see something, it's a square.
Right.
So if you want to really control the way your images look or appear, if you crop them to a square right away, then you've got that look going on from right from the start.
Yeah, that's super, and a lot of control, more control than the Instagram app itself gives you.
Mm-hmm. And Instagram's really, really, really fun, but obviously everyone who uses Instagram has those same basic choices to use. So if you throw a few more into a mix, you can give your work a unique look that'll, I'll immediately see it and go, oh, that's an Abby Glassenberg.
Right. Oh, I hope I can get to that point. That would be awfully nice. Yay. I mean, I think that people say that when they look at my dolls and toys, but maybe not when they look at the photos yet. So that would be cool, especially iPhone photos, which I sort of take without really doing much thinking or editing. So,
Gale, can you put type on those or not? On either of those?
I'm pausing because I'm not sure. There's other apps that you can. I have so many different. There are other apps that you can easily add type on.
Okay,
I'm not sure, and both of them might have extra options where you can pay a small fee and get the like premium add-in type.
And I have the Beautiful Mess app, which is great for adding text and like handwriting to.
Oh, which one do you use?
It's called the Beautiful Mess app.
Yes, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which gives that. But again, like with the Beautiful Mess, their blog has a very distinctive photo look. And so your photos end up kind of having that sort of look too, if you use their app, which is interesting. At least I think so. So, all right. So those are some really good suggestions. And Kristin, you get our last pick. And I actually wanted you to talk about these two materials that you use to fix things around your house, especially Sugru, which is so cool and also has the best like YouTube video advertisements for it. I don't know if you've watched those, but Sugru is awesome. So tell us about that.
Right. Okay. So I think I found out about Sugru from watching the Good Life Project, I think, or maybe I found out about it through Design Sponge. Anyway, it's sort of like a plastic that self-hardens. So it comes in these little pouches that are that look metallic, and it comes in a limited range of colors. And you cut the pouch open, and in it there'll be this little hunk of this. It looks sort of like clay, almost like Sculpey does. And it's not. You don't get very much in a little package. It's like maybe 2 quarters worth, and you take it out and you massage it in your fingers, and you can fix all kinds of things with it. If you go onto their website, they've got, all kinds of stuff that people have fixed with it. I fixed lamps when they break. I just take this stuff out and I wrap it around. You have to let it sit overnight. It hardens overnight. They're starting to add a few more colors. A lot of photographers use it to build onto their cameras. And the cool thing is you can then, if you decide you don't like the fix, you just use like a utility knife and you cut through it. It's still pretty soft. It's not like a hard plastic, and it pops. It'll just peel off and you're back with your broken thing or unmodified thing. And, but there's so many clever videos. You can sign up for their, newsletter, and they'll send you the hacks of the month or something. That a lot of people use it if they have arthritis or like some kind of physical problem. They build things with it. It only has a shelf life of about 6 months. So I keep it in my refrigerator, and then supposedly it's done, and then you have to order more. And you can't buy it in any store. You only can buy it through their website. I think they're from England, but somehow they ship from the States or something like that.
So
can you paint on it?
Oh, good question.
I haven't tried that yet. Maybe you can. You probably could to change a color. You could also mix the different colors together.
It comes in colors.
It comes in colors, yes.
Oh, cool. What a cool product.
Yeah, and if you watch like their videos, like if you have a door that every time you open it, the doorknob hits the wall and makes an annoying noise, you can just put a little sort of circle of Sugru either on the doorknob, and then it will like bounce off the wall, and it's like silences it instead of making that an annoying banging noise. Like it's just really great. And you can also, I think you can, like if a handle falls off your mug, you can use a little bit of Sugru to reattach the handle, and it can go through the dishwasher. It's totally, it holds up.
Yeah, I think people use it to fix their dishwashers.
Yes, and people use it to make replacement parts.
Yeah.
I think I should. I feel like I should order a case of this and do my whole house from top to bottom.
So I have to get my hands on it because it just sounds so incredibly cool. And when I saw it on your list, I was like, oh, cool, we get to talk about Sugru. So, and I'll put a link in the show notes if people want to try it out. I'm definitely going to get some and try it out. So.
Oh, the other thing I use is metal tape. It's like HVAC tape. And like I have fixed so many things in my house with this metal tape because it's got the adhesive one side, and because it's metal, it forms. So like whenever my vacuum cleaner breaks or whatever, like some kind of latch, I just tape it together with this metal tape. And I actually give it as like shower presents because I think it's so great for somebody starting out in their own new life or whatever.
Yeah, right. They're going to open it and be like, what is this? And then 6 months later, they're like, oh, yeah, we have this stuff and we can fix the thing. Yeah, totally. It's like, that was the only gift we always use,
Yeah, exactly.
That's totally what's going to happen. Well, guys, this was really great. I know there were a few things we didn't get a chance to talk about, but I think the ones that we did were really heavy hitters. And it was just really interesting to hear about your backgrounds and to get a chance to talk with both of you.
Oh, this was really a pleasure. I love your show, Abby. It's like what Kristin said. It's so great to be, when you're working at home, to hear what other people are doing at the same time, and sort of, so we're not all reinventing the wheel, and it's it's really a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice of you to say. So, Gale, where can we find you online?
Okay.
Give us a main place where we can kind of hook up to the rest of your...
Okay. Well, the main, let's see. I guess my blog is She Shoots Sheep Shots, which is a little bit of a tongue twister. So She Shoots Sheep Shots. And my regular photography blog, website is gzucker.com. But if you Google my name, which is Gale, like it's spelled like the big storm wind, Gale, Zucker, then you can pretty much find me because I'm, got Facebook and Twitter and, all the Instagram, just using my name.
Super. Okay. And Kristin, where should we find you?
Let's see. The place I'm probably most active is my blog, which is called Getting Stitched on the Farm. And then my website is www.kristinnicholas.com. And I am Kristin Nicholas pretty much on Facebook, Instagram, on everything. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest.
Oh, Pinterest, right.
And Twitter. Yeah, you're everywhere.
And Twitter, yeah. Although I must say, I'm not very active on Twitter. It's just, I love Instagram because it's visual.
Yeah, I know. Instagram is really taken off because of that. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. You've been listening to the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg, and I invite you to visit my blog where you'll find helpful information for creative entrepreneurs, as well as tutorials and patterns for making stuffed animals and dolls. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.